What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel. And if you guys are new, welcome. Happy Saturday to everybody. First Saturday of the season with the release of the dungeon yesterday, Duality. And let me tell you, this dungeon is absolutely slapping. I love the mechanics of it, the story behind it. Also super banging. Bungie absolutely killed it with this dungeon, and it is farmable. So it's super great to get some loot at that boss, have a chance of getting that exotic a couple times a week on your characters. Definitely want that exotic sword. So to start off with this video here, we're going to go over how to actually unlock the dungeon so you can go into it, and then my build that I went through with some weapons of choice to make it a little easier for you guys. So to unlock this, super easy, don't really have to do much, just go to the tower at Hawthorne, speak to her, and she has a quest called a single thread that unlocks the dungeon for you on the Dialect Leviathan, so you can go in there and start that bad boy up. So for me, the majority of the time running through this, I was on my Sentinel Titan with Bubble, actually. Just love the protectiveness of it. And then just the combination with my Heart of Innermost Light for those explosions on the Void Grenades was super great. Add Clear for Solar with hammers is also great because this dungeon does have a lot of adds inside of it. Now for primaries, went a few different ways here. Mainly I went Wither Horde and Adger's Scepter with my SMG backing it up if I was throwing on something like my Glaive, but mostly used Adger's Scepter and Wither Horde for that DPS with Wither Horde, and then Adger's Scepter by far was the best for ad clear and keeping enemies at bay for later on in the dungeon. For my secondary here, I basically switched just between the Funnel Web and my Glaive here. Tiku's is also super banging for ad clear because it does a lot of that explosion for solar, especially if you're pairing it with Solar 3.0. For our heavies, in all seriousness, this dungeon is very up close and personal in my opinion. I ran my sword, this Falling Guillotine, 95% of the time. Couple times I ran Commemoration for a little help with the ads, but most of the time I was just running this because of those nightmares. You just get up in their face and do the damage instead of having to stay back and do that DPS on them. So now to get into the actual encounters here. When we first load into the dungeon, we have to go through a little jumping puzzle, if you will, and navigate the Mindscape, it says. So the most used mechanic definitely within this dungeon is teleporting between the normal realm that we're in when you first load in, and then also the dream realm or the nightmare realm that we use to switch areas. So to do this, as you can see, you shoot the little pylons that are glowing. They glow red. They're called bells inside of this dungeon. Once you shoot that, you teleport to the nightmare realm. Now, when you are going from the normal realm into the nightmare realm, it doesn't matter where you are standing to shoot the bell. You will teleport, and wherever you're standing in the normal realm, that's where you end up in the nightmare realm. Now, sometimes the Nightmare Realm isn't exactly the same layout, so you might fall in a hole depending on where you're standing. So just make sure you're kind of standing in an area you think is a big, safe spot with ground under your feet. This is definitely one of the biggest mechanics, like I say, just because we use it to transport through the area that we're in, because there's some gates that we can't get through. So we have to shoot that bell to transport to the Nightmare Realm and work our way around an area to actually reach where that bell was that we shot inside of the Nightmare Realm. And then there is a little circle around that bell that you can kind of see. Make sure you're standing inside of that and shoot the bell again, and that'll transport you from the Nightmare Realm into the normal realm inside of that different area right next to the bell. So that's how we get around certain barriers within this dungeon here. So once we navigate the Mindscape, you just keep working your way through the different areas, working your way up, and then, like I said, just keep shooting those bells to transport between the different realms. And then finally, once you're done with that first puzzle, we come to our first boss, which is the Nightmare of Galhlran. Now, he was in the Crown of Sorrows raid, and the encounters are super fun in my personal opinion, using that mechanic of transporting us from the normal realm into the nightmare realm to deal with some of these nightmares. So for this first boss encounter, we are in this room right here with 4 different symbols. We have the War Beast symbol, the dog symbol. We have the Axis symbol. We have a sun symbol and a chalice symbol or a cup. Now, these come into play when we actually go into the Nightmare Realm in this encounter. There will be a certain enemy. In this one, it is a Scion. Once we defeat that Scion, it'll actually drop us one of those essence. It looks like a banner correlating to one of those 4 symbols that I said before. Once you pick it up, you can see in your left-hand corner that it'll say that you have the essence of Axe, War Dog, Chalice, whatever it may be. And then you and your fire team have to make sure to wipe out the Bell Keepers in that area. They are the Orange Bar Cabal. That is just because they will block the bell from being able to be shot to transport you back into the normal realm. So once you collect your 2 different symbols out of the 4, you go and teleport back into the normal realm, and you will see the symbols glowing on the ground. You slam your relic that you got, your essence, at the corresponding symbol. So it might not always be sun and cup. It might be sun and dog or chalice and axes. So just make sure whichever essence that you pick up, you slam in that slot where it is glowing. Now, once you slam those 2 different essences, there will be more bell bearers, those bell protectors that spawn. Make sure to wipe them out. And then also there will be 2 doors at each of those plates that you slammed. So one at each will go up behind where you slammed that essence. There will be some enemies to defeat in there along with a Colossus. He's pretty squishy, so don't worry too much about him, but wipe out that enemy and make sure you have one person standing inside of that door where you actually slam your essence, and then also in the other door that you slammed your other essence. The third person can be a floater if you want, or they can come into one of the rooms with you. But once you make sure you have a guardian in each of those rooms, shoot that bell that you are nearest to teleport you into the Nightmare Realm. This will actually teleport you behind a closed door where you have to deal with these projections of Galhlran, and there's about 6 or 7 of them that you have to defeat. Super squishy, again, not too worried. This is where that Witherhoard and Sword comes into play. Once both of you work your way through that closed area where you teleported in via those doors and bells, you wipe out those projections of Galhlran, and then all of a sudden a door will open up and you can actually do DPS on the actual big Nightmare of Galhlran. So make sure all 3 of you guys are going to that boss and dealing with them as much damage as you possibly can, but make sure you are watching the left hand side for where it says Nightmare collapsing, because once that time hits 0, the Nightmare will collapse and everybody inside of the Nightmare Realm will die. So you have to make sure you're doing damage on the boss, and then also make sure that you are defeating those bell bearers that protect the bell, so you guys can run to it, stand close, and shoot it, so you can teleport back to the normal realm and be safe. Now that is the entire encounter here for Galhlran, the first boss. You just rinse and repeat. Go into that normal realm, clear the ads in that room, teleport into the Nightmare Realm. Get your 2 essences, whatever it may be, swords and dogs. Make sure you wipe out those bell bearers to teleport back into the normal realm from the Nightmare Realm. Once you're back in the normal realm, slam your essence in its designated spot. Deal with all of those ads that come out of the doors that open up from where you slam. Make sure you have a guardian in each of those doors, and then teleport yourselves back into the Nightmare Realm. Deal with those projections of Galhlran, and then DPS will open up and slap him out for our first boss defeat of this dungeon here. Now, his drop was a pinnacle for me, and so were the other 2 bosses, so that is super nice for leveling on your characters as well. So after we beat our boss, we have to dive deeper into this nightmare realm and our Mindscape. So it's basically the same puzzle as before. You just keep moving around the area, looking for those bells of conquest to shoot. Once you see one, you will shoot it and teleport into the nightmare realm and work your way around to that bell so you can stand close to it, shoot it again to teleport you back into the normal realm, where you move on to our next area, which is called Find the Way. And we have a little puzzle to do here with a secret chest as well. So when we land in this area called Find the Way, you can see 4 big statues of Galhlran right here, all pointing their swords in different areas. Now you can see some doors that we came in, and then there is also a door that is cracked open where our secret chest is. So if you work your way over here to this door and come inside, there's a nice chest that'll give you stuff that you earned from the dungeon before already. Now this is a sweet little puzzle that we have here, because once we actually go into that Bell of Conquest in that center podium, we teleport into the Nightmare Realm. Now when we are in the Nightmare Realm, there are 4 statues of Galhlran that correspond with the ones in the real world. On the back of these statues inside of the Nightmare Realm, there are buttons that we can activate. These buttons actually turn the statues inside of the normal realm, so we have to line up all of the statues that are inside of the normal realm to be pointing at the center podium with their swords like they are in the Nightmare Realm. So you might have to go back and forth a couple times between the normal and the nightmare realm to make sure they're all turning correctly. But once you activate the switches on the back of all of those statues and have them turn with their swords pointing to the center area, the actual underneath will go down, and it's like a little elevator that lets us into the next area. So once we drop down this area and enter the vault, we have our second boss encounter where we again have to deal with nightmares. This time we have to deal with 3 different nightmares, but at the end it also gives us that nice pinnacle chest, and it basically is the same exact mechanics as the first one, going into the nightmare realm, defeating a certain enemy to collect that essence, bringing it back into the normal realm and slamming it down, so then after a second we can do DPS on that nightmare. Now the difference for the second encounter compared to the first boss fight is that we have 2 different bells that shoot on each side. Now, I figured out that if you're standing in the opposite bell while your friends shoot the right bell, let's say, it will kill you for some reason, not 100% sure why, so just make sure you're kind of staying close together when you teleport into the other realm. But once again, you just have to wipe out enemies in the normal area as well as those bell bearers to unlock the bells. Now when we go into the Nightmare Realm, it does mirror where we were pretty consistently, with a couple floor gaps that you gotta watch out for. But in this realm, there will only be 1 bell that you can teleport back with. So you have to make sure you find that bell and destroy those bell bearers so you guys can get out quickly. Now, once again, there will be 2 symbols on the ground in the normal world that we were in, and you will see them glowing that white. So when you teleport into the Nightmare Realm, you have to traverse to one of the 4 corners of this area. So the map is basically it has that hole in the center with 4 corners being far right, far left, close right, and close left. Once you know which symbols you need from the normal realm, you can go to the corresponding area inside the nightmare and wipe out those enemies. So in this area, you have to wipe out all of the Cabal in the area, as well as that Colossus up on the pedalum. And then once that Colossus and those enemies in the area are down, a standard bearer will spawn. This standard bearer actually gives you extended time on that collapsing nightmare, and you have to defeat it to get that essence to drop. So once you collect your 2 essence going in, you head back out to that solo bell. Make sure everybody is standing inside of that little circle from each other. Shoot the bell to go back to the normal realm and slam your 2 essences. Once you slam those 2 essences, the nightmare becomes damageable and you can wipe them out very easily. So every single time a new nightmare spawns, you will have to go back into the nightmare realm, get 2 of those essences, 2 of those symbols, bring them back to the normal realm, slam them at their corresponding spots, and it'll open up for the boss to be able to be damaged. So this encounter is just a cookie cutter of what I said in that first one. Once you defeat that first nightmare, a second one will spawn. You just have to rinse and repeat. Defeat your bearers on both sides so the bells get unlocked to teleport you into the nightmare realm. Once you see which symbols you need, so like sun and dog, teleport your fire team into the nightmare realm, have one person go deal with the bearers to unlock the bell, and then have one person go deal with, let's say, your dog symbol, and then the other person go deal with your sun symbol, so then you can all convene back easily at that bell, and it's super efficient this way. You just got to make sure that you have that one person destroying those bell bearers so you can get back to the normal plane without panicking at the end. So you just rinse and repeat this those 3 different times for those 3 different nightmares, and then after you slam that 6 essence on our 3rd nightmare here and defeat it, the encounter is over and the center of the arena will open up, the vault, and we actually head down into that to get our loot, and we are on to our last little jumping puzzle with our final boss. So once we jump down and collect our loot, we have this jumping puzzle again where we navigate the vault, and there's a second secret chest here. So when we come into this nice big room here with that kind of white box in the middle and the purple glowing underneath, you can go underneath that box. There's a memory fragment under there, and then also underneath, when you crouch inside of this little cavern here, there is our second secret chest, and once again, this will give you only stuff that you have earned from the dungeon beforehand. Now, just like before for our jumping puzzles, same exact thing. You have to shoot those bells of conquest to teleport you into the nightmare realm, and then you just make your way around in the jumping puzzle to the next area where that single bell was. Get to the bell, shoot it to teleport you back into the normal realm, and progress on your way, just rinse and repeating every time you see one of those bells to teleport you between the 2 different realms. Once you make it through that vault and that jumping puzzle, we are on to our final boss, who is actually the Nightmare of Caiatl, because that is Calus's biggest regret. Such a good storyline and such a good boss inside the fight and the mechanics. Loved this. Now, this boss is decently mechanic heavy. Again, there's just a few different moving parts that you have to do, but it's all stuff that we have done before so far inside of this dungeon. Shooting the bells to teleport you, dealing with those bell bearers to get back out, and slamming our different symbols, our essences, at the corresponding pads. Now, in this room, it is very hectic. There are a lot of enemies to deal with, and there are 3 different bells that we have to watch out for. So there's 6 different bell bearers that we have to destroy, 2 per bell. So when we start the encounter, like I said, the same exact thing as always. 2 of those symbols will pop up, so our sun and our dog, and then we have the other 2 to back it up. Now, once you see the symbols that pop up on the edges, there are 4 doors where you'll see scions actually sniping at you. At these doors, above them is the symbol that corresponds with the one on the ground, so you kind of memorize where each one is, and that'll be the door that when we teleport into the Nightmare Realm, we defeat that scion to get the essence right there. So once you defeat the bell bearers in the area, you can actually go kind of stand on the pedestal by the door that corresponds with that symbol, and then teleport yourself into the Nightmare Realm. The way we were doing it, we would have one person on one symbol, one person on the other symbol, and then the 3rd person is running around doing ad clear and shooting the bells for us if we can't see them, because some of them, based on the door, have little cheeky angles that you can't really shoot the bell from. Now, once you teleport into the Nightmare Realm, same exact thing. Lots of enemies around that you have to deal with, as well as those bell bearers. Now, when you teleport at those doors, like I said, there will be a scion up there that you defeat. Once you defeat the corresponding scion for that essence and symbol, it'll drop the little flag and you pick it up, and then you actually go back into the normal realm like always and slam it at its certain post. Now you rinse and repeat this one more time so you can get the other 2 symbols slammed. Once you have all 4 of these symbols slammed in our main area in the normal realm, actually there will be 4 chains that go up into the sky. You can see them normally. They will start to glow red. Once they start to glow red, make sure you're doing damage on them, because this is how we start the actual damage phase on Caiatl. Once those chains start glowing red, you do damage on them, and then you don't have to shoot a bell or anything. Once the chains aren't red, Caiatl will actually transport you into the Nightmare Realm, and once again, there will be those 3 bells, left, middle, and right. The way that we did it, we had 1 guardian at each bell to wipe out their bell bearers as fast as possible, because for damage here, Caiatl will move in between those 3 bells in a random pattern and stop at each one, where you actually have to shoot the bell to stun her, and then you can do DPS on Caiatl. Now, to get some juicy DPS on her, there is a certain way that you have to do it. You have to get a buff from standing close to that bell when you shoot it and stun her, so you can get that unstable essence and absolutely wipe her out. If you are not standing by the bell when you're doing damage and stunning her, you are barely scratching her and her health is going down minimal. So to really maximize your DPS, make sure to stun her when she's super close to the bell, and then that will allow you to get some juicer DPS on her instead of just scratching her and barely moving her health bar, and then she teleports away. Now, during the DPS phase, like I said, she will move between the bells, so you have to make sure you wipe out the bell bearers for each of them. So she'll start at 1 bell, start there, and then she will randomly move to one of the next 2. You also move with her, wait till she gets close. Once again, shoot that bell to stun her, and you will see that little buff that we get to actually do damage, and then start railing into her before she moves to that last bell. Once you go to the last bell and finish your damage on her, she will actually just teleport you back into the normal realm without having to do anything, and you just rinse and repeat what we did before until you can get her health down. Now, we were doing it in about 2 phases most of the time. 1 or 2 times we did have to go 3, just based on people not getting that little buff. So make sure you're standing close to the bell when you start damage on Caiatl, so you can get that juicer DPS instead of hitting her with a fork instead of our sword kind of thing. So once again, just rinse and repeat that until you defeat Caiatl. Make sure you're in that main area, wiping out enemies. Teleport yourself to the Nightmare Realm, wipe out the corresponding scion to get your essence. Once you slam all 4 of the essence in the normal realm, those chains will start to glow red. Shoot the chains to make sure that they explode, and you can start your damage on Caiatl. She will teleport you automatically into the Nightmare Realm, where you have to follow her around to each of the bells. Make sure you destroy those bell bearers so you can actually shoot the bell to stun Caiatl. Once she's close to that bell, shoot the bell to stun her, and then start your DPS on her. And like I said, she'll just move between the 3 different bells. Make sure you're sticking with her at each bell, and after she stops at the 3rd one and you do your damage, that damage phase is over, and you teleport back to the normal realm and start it over. And that is it. Once you beat Caiatl there, that is the end of the dungeon. You get teleported back to our main area where we have our final chest. You have the chance of getting that exotic sword right here as well from beating Caiatl. Super, super fun dungeon for me. Loved what Bungie did on it. I know this was a little longer video, but it is a pretty mechanic heavy dungeon. Just a lot of moving pieces, if you will, going back and forth between the 2 different realms. So hopefully this helped you guys out get to grinding out this new dungeon, especially for that exotic sword. Lots of sweet weapons come from this as well. So thank you guys so much again for watching. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.